Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Hope your day's going well so far. We're just gonna wait one more minute. I feel like every webinar starts with, we're just gonna wait one more minute for a few people to join, but we've got a few people joining here still, I see, so we'll hang on for a minute or so. But I really appreciate everyone logging on today to join us. I know it's a busy time of year as we get ready for kind of the late summer, fall season. It's also vacation season, as I'm sure we're all painfully aware, trying to get things done, whether it's with partners or colleagues or customers. I know it's a time where there's a lot of out of offices coming back. So appreciate y'all being here with us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mack Ewing, and I'm actually wearing the same shirt I noticed that I am in this photo. I do have other shirts but I'm wearing the same one today. My role at Transchem is Senior Director of Sales and Marketing, and then across the Vehicle Wash Solutions Group, so PDQ, Bellinger, ICS, Transchem, Kesseltronics. I oversee the key accounts function as well. So really appreciate your time and joining us today. And Dave Hill, I'll pass it over to you. I know you don't need an introduction for most of this group, but I'll pass it over to you for one anyway.
It's Mack. Yeah, Dave Hill. I'm the senior ops manager here at Transchem and in the OPW group of companies. I've been with the company for 26 years and have a pretty strong role in new product development, as well as having a pretty good understanding of all of our chemistries and how they're applied. So excited to share some information with you guys today around our new products that we're bringing up here. And yeah, I mean, looking forward to for you guys um, having some questions and getting you some answers around this new product. So yeah, take it away.
Nice. And for
And
those
yes,
of you
that
who
is me
don't,
in a car wash.
yeah, if you didn't see Jeremy and our good friend Jeremy from Ontario, Canada. Hey, Jeremy, hope you're doing well. He said, is Dave in a car wash in that photo? And we can assure you that Dave is always in a car wash or locked in his office. There's no in between. He has no home. He's just oscillating between one or the other. And Dave actually recently moved into a new role at Transchem, for those of you who don't know as well. So Dave's overseeing all of the operations around Transchem, so more of the chemical manufacturing and other pieces of our overall operations. So congrats to Dave on his new role. He's always been such a critical aspect of Transchem, right since pretty much day one. So we really appreciate everything you do, Dave.
Appreciate it.
Right on. Right on. And I did get a haircut for someone who asked. My sister, I can't see who it is. It says unverified for me, but my sister got married earlier in the summer, so I chopped the lettuce a little bit. Uh, Today, yeah, as you know, we're going to be talking about our new product, HyperLo Shell Enhancer. So this is a really interesting product. Actually, it's something that's pretty different, I would say, Dave, than what we've launched in the past. It is something that is more reactionary to this industry trend that we've been seeing a lot of, especially in tunnel washes, but certainly in bays as well, of a big focus on trying to lower the pH level of the vehicle, and certainly lowering the pH level of the water that's going into the reclaim system as well. So it's a product that we've been working on for several years now. We did launch it at the ICA show in Las Vegas this past April as a full official launch. So unlike some of the webinars we've done before, this is a product that's on our price lists today. You can purchase it in Canada and the US. We can certainly look at options in the international markets as well if it's something that is helpful. I see we do have a few friends from international markets on here today. So certainly something that's already available. And as with all of our new products, this is something that you'd like to try in your wash or try through your distribution company. Reach out to your sales rep or reach out to me directly, and we're happy to facilitate that. But we do always want to get these new product offerings in the hands of as many people as possible because, and as we'll go through a little bit later in this call, Dave can work with it in an R&D environment. We can work with it in a laboratory. We can send it out to distributors to trial. But at the end of the day, if we don't have feedback from people like yourselves who are at the wash every day or working in the business every day, then it's going to be a challenge for us to be able to improve our products and also just to make sure we understand exactly how, best to utilize them in the field. So as we go through that, really appreciate your thoughts, your feedback, both today in our presentation, but also as you trial it in the field, which we hope you will. So we'll cover a little bit of the what and why. Well, why did we actually introduce this product? A chemical overview. So we'll talk about some of the specifics of the product itself, what it does, the setup and usage, certainly how to try it, like I mentioned already. And then Dave and I felt like it would be helpful for those of you who aren't aware, just to share a little bit about our development process at Transchem and how we go from taking the concept of a new product all the way to execution and implementing it into our product list. It's certainly a process that is extensive. It's one that, just based on the breadth of the different regions we work in, the different types of operators that we support, it's an extensive process, and it's one that Dave leads really from tip to tail, from the front of the wash to the back of the wash, if you will, to make sure that, when we're putting a new product out there, like this HyperLo shell enhancer, we're doing it with a lot of diligence into how we roll it out. Because the last thing we would want is for you to have a product in your wash that's not 100% vetted, that's not really something that we can stand behind and support rolling out at scale. And then at the end, we do have Q&A, but for those of you who join us on our webinars, of course, the more questions, the better throughout. Love the banter in the chat as well. So whatever method you feel most comfortable with, if you want to post in the Q&A section, that's right at the top in the header, and you can just add questions or comments there. You can use the chat functionality, or you can even raise your hand here, and our colleague Shay can unmute you and allow you to ask a question through your microphone as well. Cool, cool, cool. So our focus at Transchem Turtle Wax Pro, of course, is to lead the industry in innovative products. So that's always going to be our North Star. We don't want to be following what other manufacturers are doing. We don't want to be jumping on bandwagons for the sake of doing so. I know a lot of you have heard us talk about graphene and our position on graphene, but we were way late to the graphene party. It's not because we didn't see that happening in our industry. It's not because we didn't want to deliver a great quality graphene product. It's just honestly, we thought graphene was a lot of hype and not a lot of substance. And the products that we had trialed from other companies just we didn't feel was an improvement on what we had. It was just a more expensive kind of marketing initiative, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's not, at the time how we were thinking about our product list and what to bring to market. However, as we played around with graphene more and more, we were really able to find this awesome suspended graphene solution that we could bring into our manufacturing facility and supplement our existing ceramic products. So that was kind of the birth of our Autolux graphene product, our AL88 product, which I hope you folks have tried by now, and if not, definitely we'd recommend it. It has a great grape scent, really nice shine, long-lasting shine, and something that we've been really proud of. So that's an example there where, we weren't first to market by any means, but we feel like we were thoughtful with our approach to bringing something that was truly innovative from a product standpoint to market. This product here is kind of similar to that in a lot of ways, actually, where we saw this trend, as I mentioned earlier, in the field, where car wash operators were looking at, how do we lower the pH level of the vehicle? How do we lower the pH level of the reclaim system? How do we bring something to our customers that's a little bit different than some other wash processes that are out there in the industry, or even, frankly, other wash processes that we would recommend? And so this product here, HyperLo Shell Enhancer, the SKU number is HP801, is a specialty pre-drying additive. So it's something that we look at kind of as a pre-drying additive that works to lower the pH level inside the wash process using a very small amount of chemistry. So this is like 2 to 4 milliliters per application, typically, I believe, and we'll go through that a little bit more in detail, but something that just a little bit can help us lower the pH level in the wash and can help us to make a few improvements that we think really make a noticeable difference. So this isn't necessarily a product that we're going to be moving a lot of volume on just because it's so concentrated. You're using just a little bit of it, but it's something that we feel could help to solve a number of different cleaning challenges, could give a customer a better quality vehicle, and could ultimately make your lives hopefully a little bit easier by delivering a great quality wash at a really good price point. And certainly we know, and I have the industry trends slide right now. There's a big push right now to produce the best quality car at the lowest cost. And of course, that's always been the case in our industry, but right now, it's a challenging macroeconomic environment. So we're not looking at our product development cycle and saying, like, how do we implement the best product possible that's going to cost double what our Turtle Wax Pro Ice costs or our Turtle Wax Pro Super Hard Shell costs. We're looking at, how do we deliver really, really good value, really consistent products that add value to the market, that produce a drier car or a shinier car or a cleaner car out the front, and do so in a way that works well for everyone in the ecosystem that we operate in. Um, and this product, I think, really falls nicely into that. So as I mentioned, big trend specifically in tunnel washes, moving more towards that low pH focus. It's sometimes related to reclaim levels. Other operators, though, we've heard really believe that by lowering the pH level on the vehicle surface, you're enhancing cleaning, you're preparing for drying better, certainly kind of prepping for that ceramic or that graphene product. And it can also help combat water quality issues. So specifically hard water quality. And that's something that we'll talk about in a little bit. So we did hear a lot of feedback for a product like this, and that's why we brought it to market. Dave, anything you would add there before I keep rolling through and just talking a little bit about the benefits of low pH?
Yeah, sure. I can kind of put a little bit more of a kind of a science acumen to it, um, to just kind of explain a little bit about why this approach is actually going to make some kind of discernible differences. So the product itself has got a very large acid load. And by virtue of the fact that it does have that kind of acidity, the small usage levels when introduced to a water flow will drastically and immediately really lower the pH of that application. And when acids are mixed with water and released onto a surface, give off a lot of electrons. Those electrons are very anxious to bond with other materials. And so typically, one of the biggest challenges we have in tunnel washing is uh, inadequate rinsing in a lot of cases. Some of them have excellent rinsing, but sometimes towards the end of the wash, when we're trying to do finishing products and get them going, we find that if we've got some residual material on the surfaces that we're trying to dry and shine and protect, it will interfere with our drying process, so much so that we might have to use extra product in order that it gets dispersed in the regular amount that is really required to give you the kind of results that you're after. What this does is any materials like soaps, detergents, even some religion, leftover soils, things like that, it gives us a chance to solubilize that material and have that effluent go away from the surface that we're trying to now introduce a drying product to. Also, by virtue of the fact that we released extra electrons into this whole kind of this area, those electrons have a chance to either bond with the surface, which will then attract the cation and give us better adhesion of our sealing products. That's the kind of preface for lower pH improves drying. It's because it kind of makes that surface a little more electrostatically attractive to the cationic products that we use for drying and sealing. So there's a couple of things happening here. We're trying to solubilize material that might be left over in the wash process. Well, by virtue of that fact, we're using a low pH to do that, also introducing a low pH so that we can, in effect, make our drying products that much more effective. So, there's a couple of spots here too. It does give us a little bit more extra cleaning power. I mean, by putting that in there, where we are able to release some soils that maybe in the wash process didn't get released. It's just another chance for us to be able to improve on that cleaning of that surface before we try to protect it. So, I think that's pretty much, the whole
Mhm.
concept of what's happening with the chemistry itself.
Yeah, no, that's great, Dave. I appreciate you adding that, and I think if I could summarize that and you tell me where I'm wrong here, it's that if you have matter, organic or inorganic matter, so whether that's salt or dirt or bird droppings or otherwise, that are left on the vehicle through the cleaning process, it's going to be very difficult to certainly shine the vehicle, but especially dry the vehicle because there are there's existing matter on that surface that will prevent that drying process from being effective. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. That's really fair to say. I mean, the cleaner that surface and the smoother that it is, and the less interference from other organic compounds, inorganic compounds, the better off and less product that you are going to require in order to get the kind of results on the paint and on the glass that you want to see.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. Awesome. Really appreciate that. So as we go forward here, why super low pH or so there's low pH products. You all have low pH products already, right? And I think that's something that we could do a better job explaining here as well, is we're talking about super low pH, like really getting to the bottom of the scale. And that's something that we're working to achieve with this product here. So you're already washing, likely, maybe some of you aren't using a low pH pre-soak or lower pH products throughout the wash, but likely you are. So you're already reaping the benefits of some of these points here. And really what we're looking to do is magnify these points further and enhance them. Is that would be fair to say as well, Dave? I think I just want to make sure that that kind of captures the group for operators and distributors on the call today.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, right on. So low pH products, which are more acidic. So even if you want to Google like a pH scale here, you can see the acid to alkaline gradient. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, when we're talking about car wash chemistry, we're often talking about the pH level as one of the kind of top 2 to 3 factors. So when you're evaluating chemistry, something that you would typically do is select your products based on their pH level as it goes throughout the wash process. For some of you, you've been doing that for decades. For others, maybe that's new information. So just sharing that there. So low pH products, which are more acidic, and this is a product that's very low pH, so it's very acidic, are excellent at breaking down those really tough mineral deposits that show up on a vehicle, like hard water spots. So, number one of the top 5 issues that you'll hear about at a car wash is there's spots on the vehicle, there's white dots. That's hard water spots almost always. And that can be caused by calcium or magnesium, but those are the input minerals that create water hardness. But soap scum as well. Soap scum is something that can be left on a vehicle, and that's obviously going to leave residue and really not a desirable look and feel for the customer of the car wash. So low pH products are great at breaking down those aspects or those inputs. Hyper low pH is really good at breaking those down. So if those are issues that you're seeing in your wash today, that could be a sign that you want a lower pH level and you want to utilize a product like this. Um, so they're very effective in those like kind of pre-soak stages of the wash, but they're also effective throughout the car wash process, depending on where you might be experiencing this issue. One thing that you'll see is, especially for newer vehicles, but really any finish level, is that it can help brighten paint finishes and chrome surfaces when you're using a hyper low pH product. So something that's really low pH will remove oxidization and other kind of contaminants that can dull a vehicle's surface. So when you're using something that's a hyper low pH level, you can get a much glossier and more polished look from the vehicle. And I'd say that that's something that we've consistently seen when this product has been implemented. So again, even though you're just using a small amount of it, you're actually dramatically bringing down the pH level of the vehicle's surface, and that can really help to produce that glossier look. And that's something that I think customers will notice. but it really certainly pairs nicely with our Turtle Wax Pro finishing products, like I mentioned earlier, Ice and Super Hard Shell, or even our Autolux graphene product or raincoat. So this product here, paired with those finishing products, can help to just expand upon the results that you're already seeing with our finishing products. And we've talked about this already a little bit here, but water quality issues. So if your area has hard water, and if you're not sure if your area that you're cleaning in has hard water, that would be something that would be, I think, very beneficial for your operations to find out. And you can just order those test kits off of Amazon or otherwise to find your water hardness levels. But low pH products really help counteract the effects of all those minerals that are making the water hard. And so it reduces the potential of issues there, like we talked about, certainly for water spots and streaks, but also just in general, it can combat issues that you'd frequently experience with hard water. In all car washes, not just tunnel car washes, but all car washes, typically we're using a combination of low pH and high pH products. So it's an acid to alkaline sequence. So an acid being a low pH and alkaline being a high pH. And that balance can help remove that full spectrum of dirts and contaminants from the vehicle. So if you're going like all high pH products, you're going to get some of the minerals or the contaminants on the vehicle, but not all of them. If you're going only low pH, you're going to get the opposite end of the spectrum. So we want to try and balance low pH and high pH to the best of our ability to get all of that dirt and grime off the vehicle. So that's referred to typically as a two-step method, that high pH to low pH or low pH to high pH, depending on your preferences. And this is something that this product here, if your wash is running at more of a high pH product selection, you can really work to combat that and get that full spectrum of cleaning without implementing like a lot of new chemistry, which obviously will increase your costs. So this is a product here that by using just a little bit of it, you can really balance the pH levels throughout the wash. And finally here, all of our products are 100% biodegradable. None of our products have harmful acids in them or forever chemicals. So we're really proud of that, and that can sometimes, produce a result that is challenging to compete with someone who's using a really harsh acid that can be harmful, not only to the employees working with it, but also the environment and the actual vehicles. And so having a hyper low pH product is another way that by being still safe for employees to work with and environmentally friendly, we're able to implement, new solutions for you to work with in challenging cleaning environments. Dave, I'll pause there. Is there anything that you would add on or maybe adjust from what I shared?
Oh, I think you've really covered a lot of ground there, in terms of explaining this. And then I think as we move on, it's more or less how we're going to actually use this in process.
Nice. Good, great. I'll pause for questions from the group here. How does this feel to those of you on the call? Like, do you kind of understand the overall concept and the thesis we're coming at this product with? I know there's a lot of information here, and trying to kind of boil it down to be a little bit more, clarified around the principles of it, but also having Dave kind of share some of the scientific components. Does it make sense, or is there anything that we can kind of go back and explain again? And I would imagine that, if you have something that you're feeling uncertain about, other people on the call would as well. So you can add those into the chat. Perfect. I see one already. Add it into the chat Q&A section, or just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. Awesome. So Jonathan asked, hey, Jonathan, hope you're doing well. How would this product affect a bio-reclaim system?
I can answer that. So in aqua biosystems, not too dissimilar from the normalized other types of reclamation systems. This doesn't really, given the kind of dilution and addition of the product to your system, you're not going to have any detrimental effects towards an aqua biosystem any more so than you would from a regular soap, a detergent, or any of the other cleaners, wheel cleaners that you would be using in that kind of precept. Um, it's absolutely manageable when it does get used, and it does react with other materials. It breaks down into very, regular soils, carbon, and other materials that become digestible by bioreactive systems. So absolutely no problem using it in that frame. I see another question here. How will it handle road salts? Very
Dave,
well.
do you mind if I interrupt you before you go to the next question there? Because that I think it was a great answer. If I repeat that back, kind of and make sure that we understand as a group here, in a bio reclaim system or just a reclaim system in general, because we're using such a small amount of this product, like 2 to 4, 2 to 5 milliliters per application, we wouldn't have any impacts. But that would be no impacts that are negative, but also no impact that's positive, right? Like unless you're trying to intentionally reduce the pH level of your reclaim system, which you can do with this product, we wouldn't expect to see any impact, positive or negative. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. So the only thing I would add to that, Jonathan, is some we've heard from operators that they say they prefer the pH level of their reclaim system, like the actual water in their reclaim system, to be at a certain level. So they want a lower pH reclaim water. I couldn't speak to the pros and the cons of that specifically. I think that would be a good question for a reclaim supplier or for an operator who has that thesis. But you could use this to lower the pH level in your reclaim system. You'd just be using more than the amount that we're talking about here. Nice. So, sorry, Dave, I interrupted you. The next one, how will it handle road salts? Which is a great question.
Yeah, extremely well. It's a very good solubilizer. Sodium is readily soluble to begin with. However, this will expedite that process, and also it will keep that sodium in solution, so the effluent can be rinsed away before it has a chance for redeposition on your surfaces. So it does, when things are solubilized, they're much easier to move and affect with water. So it doesn't, it will certainly be it falls into the same category of a lot of the salt removers. It's not really intended to be a salt remover, but just by nature of what it is, it will certainly contribute to that. And again, too, just to take a step back too on the reclaim kind of look there, the the product's not really meant to be like introduced as a pH adjustment. It will contribute. Our focus with the product is to try to manage the pH of the actual rinse water that's being used, that it's being added to, so that it can, affect the kind of cleaning of the surface and the shining of the surface. But I don't have data specifically to manage pH adjustment in water systems by virtue of this product. I don't really have a lot of data around that. Meaning, if somebody asks me, well, I'd like to adjust my pH, how much should I use? That's not data that I have.
Hmm.
So will it contribute to it? Absolutely, it will. And it's a short-term thing. It's not an accumulative thing. It's something that gets used and then it begins to break down. So it doesn't accumulate in systems, meaning you're not going to lower your system down to really, extensive pH levels. It won't work that way. But it's certainly because of the virtue of the fact that it is on the lower pH side. Um, there are there are plenty of arguments to manage your reclaim systems under neutral. So this is a contributing factor to that.
Nice. That's great. Thank you, Dave. And I see that was a question from our friends at Tunnel Vision. So I'm not sure which of you gents that was, but thanks for joining us and appreciate the question. John asked us, how is the product different or better than the current low pH offerings? So John, thanks for joining. Thanks for the question. Dave, do you want to start with that or do you want me to kick that one off?
Sure. No, I
Okay.
can I can adjust it right away. So the current low pH offerings that we have are generally engineered to maintain that less than neutral kind of application, while still providing attributes like detergency, lubricity, foamability. Um, we use a lot of different surfactants and other components to help us pull soils away. But this product, it's not really engineered. It's not going to replace a wrap lube. It's not going to replace a lava application. This is a new kind of introduction that would require its own kind of application that's segregated. It's not a replacement product. So it's not better than any of the ones. It's quite different in the sense that after the washing cycle, right before the drying cycle, this is an opportunity for us to make sure that we've rinsed the car really well. We do have an opportunity to solubilize materials that might be left on that it might interfere with the drying process, and then it will not. It'll only improve the drying process that happens afterwards and helps us get rid of the things that might have been left behind prior to. So it's like a real gateway between washing and drying, and that's where it really belongs. So it's not a replacement product. It's not a new foamer or something where you're going to be putting it in different stages of the wash. It's got a pretty distinct role in terms of where it belongs in the car wash.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think just to add to that as well, our branding from this, we were really focused on that enhancer word. I know that's one that Shay and Blake on our marketing team, they worked hard to figure out the positioning of the product and how we best communicate it, and we do have some resources available online as well about HyperLo Shell Enhancer, which we definitely encourage you to check out on our website, and maybe share, Blake, if you could link to any of those in the chat. If there are any that would be specifically good to link to, I'd appreciate that. Um, but uh, but yes, the term enhancer there is more that we're adding something here that's really kind of boosting that effort to lower the pH level. And I would say, as I mentioned earlier, you're probably thinking, well, this is just one more product. It's another expense that we add to a wash infrastructure that we're trying to actually reduce our costs on or manage our costs on. And I would say that that's where our focus on this was making it something that was really affordable to add to a wash process if you wish to do so. So again, this isn't a product that we're looking at thinking like this is going to be a whole new revenue line for us. This is something, or for you, frankly, as distributors, this is something that we're looking at saying we really believe that you'll produce a great quality car, potentially a better quality car than what you're at now, if if lowering the pH level is something that might work well in your washing conditions. Nice. So John, thanks a lot for that. Really appreciate it. Liz. Uh-oh. Dave, are you ready for a question from Liz or no? Should we
Yeah,
hang up now?
questions from Liz.
Okay, we'll go forward then. Liz asked, "Does the product have to be agitated in order to work?" So for maybe we'll stop there and answer that question.
No, absolutely not. Actually, if used really appropriately, it's going to look like a water, like a rinse. We don't want to introduce foam at this stage. We don't want to introduce another kind of like showy experience. Um, the what it's trying to do is actually just we're trying to mitigate anything that's left behind. So no, it doesn't require air. It doesn't. We don't want it to foam up. That will have somewhat of a low signal so that you do realize that you're getting something. It's not just water. There is a little bit of a signal to the application, but it's very minimal. And where it really belongs, as I mentioned before, right at the very end, after your final rinse, or just prior to your final rinse, right before getting into the drying area. If you've got harder water, it might be something that you introduce after that final rinse to avoid, will start to minimize things like spotting. Also, if you've got very high sodium levels in your softened water, um, this will also help mitigate that a little bit by it'll keep that material solubilized while we're getting through the drying process and adding those finishers on there that are evacuating the surfaces of water. So right at the very end of the wash, right before the drying process, whether it's right before the final rinse or something of that nature. Now, not an RO rinse, but I mean before the last rinse, before we get into the drying, like rain bars and nozzle applications for drying products. That's really where it should reside.
Mhm. And Dave, just to clarify there for those who may not be familiar, like we would refer to that typically as before your finishing products. But do you mind just elaborating for those who aren't familiar on what that would look like?
um, like in terms of an application process, or
Yeah, yeah, like some people may think of that and say like, oh, I'm not sure of what the drying product, what products are actually being used for drying products. But
oh
they're
yeah, so the prior to, I mean, um, typically throughout the cycle of the wash, we've done all the detergency. So we've added our pre-soaks, whatever detergents, lavas, those kinds of things that allow the brushes to do the cleaning. All the showy things, CTA stuff, triple foams, that's all occurred, and most likely have some kind of a high pressure rinse or high volume, high water volume rinse to evacuate all of that material. Following that, a rain bar, single row, double row rain bar application of this product at approximately 2 to 3 mils in a dilution rate anywhere up to 1,000 to 1 is not a problem at all. Um, even you could go even higher, but you can check your pH of that effluent that's coming out, or the flow that's coming out of the rain bar, to see that you're achieving a lower pH around probably an application up about 2 to 3. And um, then following with anything that's to do with clear coat protectant, drying agent, ceramics, graphenes, those types of sealants, those things that you want to give a real opportunity to adhere to the surfaces. The showier things, it can, if you've got adequate rinsing, you're probably not going to introduce a ton of colored foam at this stage of the wash anyway, because if you put it on, you got to take it off. So, but it will absolutely, any type of product that's got a cationic kind of basis to it, that's engineered towards drying, sealing, and protecting. Um, that's where this product is really going to make an impact.
perfect. Thank you, Dave. Awesome. And we will go through a little bit more information on how to apply the product as well. And Jeremy, I see you've got a question here as well, which we'll address in that section there. So appreciate it for sure. But thanks for all the questions, folks. Just to recap on some of the product specs here. So this can be used in friction and touchless environments. There's total flexibility there. So if it's a friction and bay automatic or a touchless, you can still utilize it. If it's a tunnel wash, of course, you're going to be able to implement that, as Dave has mentioned as well. Um, when we're talking about our usage here, so again, we've mentioned this a couple times, but it's very low. So between 2 to 5 milliliters. So that's, just a drop in a shot glass essentially of product. So when you're buying one of these, if you're looking at implementing this at a customer site or your own site, and you're talking about a 5 gallon container of product, you're going to get a significant amount of usage out of one container. So the cost per car implications should be very low, essentially, a couple pennies at the most there. So shouldn't increase your cost per car in any meaningful or noticeable way. And in fact, maybe there's even an opportunity to turn down some of your finishing product usage if you were looking to. That could result in a net savings on your cost per car. But again, we don't want to comment too much on that because our goal here wasn't to make a positive or negative impact on the cost per car. Instead, it was to deliver, the best value possible, by giving your customers or yourself the best vehicle at a price point that wasn't going to have an impact. And then when we're talking about, how hyper low it is, how hyper low is it? It is less than 1.5 pH. So very, very low. So again, if you're not familiar with the pH scale, definitely recommend, go Google that, look at it on a chart, and you'll see here that this is, right at the bottom end. And it has a sweet logo, I would say. So kudos to the marketing team for a really cool product logo. So the outcome, this is from our marketing materials for the product, which Shay, thank you very much, Shay, for posting our product page here as well. It's in the chat if you want to check it out. So this certainly removes road film. It boosts the finishing product, so it's going to enhance the finishing products for that really nice glossy finish. It performs well in hard water, and it, of course, as we've talked a lot about, lowers the pH level of the vehicle for that final step. So setup and usage here. So again, this was designed to be a pre-drying additive. So as Dave mentioned, this is going on after your final rinse or just before it. It can also be used in other cleaning situations, like if you wanted to boost your low pH pre-soak, you could do so with this, if that's something that you're looking for. But again, applied, how we're recommending it here is in partnership with your finishing products, being applied before the finishing and drying products within the wash process.
Yeah, and
So
so sorry if I can jump in there just quick, Mac,
please,
just to
yeah.
answer Jeremy's question. So you in the comments here, I see Jeremy, you've got pre-suck 1, 2, triple, high pressure rinse. After that high pressure rinse is where you would probably want to put on a touch-free machine through the production nozzles or the flex nozzles, a single pass that went from back to front or front to back, depending on where that machine is resting, before you put on fire ice and your drying agent. So that's where it belongs at that point. That's it. It belongs. Yes, that's exactly right. That's how you would set it up in an IBA. Sorry, Mac. I just wanted to get to that point where
No,
when I was staring right at it. So
I was gonna kick it over to you anyway, so that's perfect. Yeah, so just to recap there for context as well. So Jeremy has a Wash World razor, so it's a touchless in-bay automatic. He's running a lot of the Turtle Wax Pro finishing products there, so fire and ice specifically. So he's gonna put it on. If you look in the chat, for those of you who don't see that, he's gonna put it on after the triple foam, after the high pressure rinse, but before the finishing products, so the fire and the ice there. Yeah, so nice. Thanks for that, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
and John,
Yeah, and
I'll answer this one quick to John Richard. Um, I'd suggest that on an IBA and a high pressure rinse, you probably find yourself using far too much chemical. I think you'd have greater success using more of a productivity type of application where the gallons per minute that are being thrown through are really going to help mitigate the product usage. Yeah, high pressure rinse, especially in an IBA, we're looking at 25, 35 gallons per minute. It's going to be very hard to tip that product in order for you to just put a couple mils through. Um, and you might actually, with so much agitation from a high pressure rinse, create a phenomena that you really don't want to see, by virtue of the fact that it does have a bit of a signal to it. You might create more of a signal and it just looks, it doesn't look like you're rinsing at all. So I would recommend against injecting it into a high pressure rinse.
Dave, can you clarify for people who aren't familiar with the term signal, what you're referring to there?
Well, yeah, like a foam signal. So typically speaking, like we can do a lot with chemicals that if you put them into a solution with water, it looks like water. That clear solution with no signal or foam, which is usually foam, um, can be very, very active and do a lot of work. But in the industry, if we don't introduce something to the public or something to an operator that indicates that chemical is being applied, they typically think that the chemical is not being applied. And so we introduce just a tiny bit of a signal so that when it's different than when you're just putting water on a surface, it does have a little bit of a foam signal. It dissipates very quickly, but there's something there that that there's something in solution that is being applied. It's really just an indicator that something's happening here. Also, too, a lot of the stabilizers that we use for the product, so we can really concentrate things, will create this kind of a foam signal as well, just by their intrinsic properties. So it's just a side effect of holding that chemistry together in a jug, when it gets applied and diluted, that creates that kind of phenomena too. So, but yeah, that's what's signal is an indicator of.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
So for setup and usage, is that clear for everyone how you could apply this both in a tunnel and an in-bay setting? Or does anyone have any questions? Anything that we could potentially go over again about how to set it up and use it? Again, two to 5 mils per application is likely what you'll see. Probably start with the higher end of that range there, like 4 to 5 mils as you set it up, just to get an understanding of what the impact is right away, and then dial it down from there. Okay, great. Awesome. Well, if you do have questions as we go through here again, jump in, let us know. But we did, for those of you who haven't been involved in our product development process discussions, just want to share a little bit about what it looks like for how we develop products. So this is a flow chart here of the 4 different phases of our product development. So we go through kind of from the light bulb, the idea, and typically the idea is coming from, yourselves, one of our partners at Transcam. Maybe it's coming from one of our service team leaders like Jonathan Skorka, or Kyle Bernard. Maybe it's coming from a service manager in the field, or maybe it's coming from a sales concept or a marketing concept where we're saying, hey, this is a product that we'd really like to bring to market here. We certainly do work extensively with third-party laboratories as well to identify chemical innovations. And that's where some of our most interesting product innovations have come from. Turtle Wax Pro One Shot, our high pH pre-soak that we launched last year, that came from an innovation in pre-soak technology that we were able to identify and be first to market and bringing forward. That being said, some of our product ideas are going to be based on trends like this as well. So it's an extensive process, and then that's the conceptualization phase, if you will. That's phase one. I jumped ahead of myself there as I was riffing. Phase two is the actual ideation phase. So we have an idea, maybe it's a new type of chemical innovation that's come to market. Maybe it's feedback from a customer, from a partner like yourselves. So what we'll do there is we'll do some internal lab testing. We do have 2 full-time lab technicians at Transchem, PhD chemistry, people who are really in depth with how they look at chemical application and the properties of chemistry, and certainly know a lot more about that than I'll ever forget. But they do a lot of testing there to explore technologies, and we'll work again with third-party lab experiments to validate or invalidate the findings we have from our own lab. So we really want to make sure that we're building on a strong foundation of science before we go forward from there. We'll also sample raw material possibilities. So I mentioned this earlier, our focus, I would say now more than ever, is on not introducing raw materials that are going to be a lot more expensive than what we're using today, because we know that's not where the cycle of our industry is at right now. We're not seeing a lot of people saying, how do we get the best possible car, and we're okay with increasing our costs by 20%. We're really focused on how do we make sure that we're being very value oriented with everything we're bringing to the table. And finding raw materials is an important aspect of that. If we couldn't find a raw material that was going to be cost effective, no one's going to buy the product. And it doesn't matter if, Dave's developed the most amazing finishing product in the world, because no one's going to buy it. So that's where the cost analysis comes from. And then finally, production feasibility. Is this something that we have to mix in little 1 gallon containers and shake it up? Or is it something that we can make in larger vats that allow us to produce a product at scale so we can service the international car wash market? So once we've kind of validated the concept, we validated the idea, we'll move forward with lab testing for sure with the finished product, but then we'll quickly move into R&D facility testing. And here you'll see a photo for those of you who haven't been to our head office in Cambridge, Ontario, of our R&D facility. It is a touch-free in-bay automatic wash, and we'll do testing in that wash to ensure that in a real world it's working. Something that's really cool that we have within our manufacturing facility and our R&D wash is the ability to adjust water quality. or water hardness in a way that allows us to test products and test how they would react in different geographies. After that, we'll oftentimes work with distributors or local operators, whether that's in Canada, whether that's in the US, or whether that's internationally, to support testing and actual implementation of the product. So, like, what are you seeing for usage levels? How does this actually react in a real world environment? And we'll oftentimes then make some iterations on the product and reformulate it based on that feedback. And then finally, we have the boring stuff, which is creating the labels, pricing the product. Pricing part's not so boring. It's always exciting to negotiate with finance. Working on our developing our SDSs, getting that in our ERP system, and scheduling it for production. And so, this product here, again, HyperLo, we've gone through all these phases already. That's something that's done, and it's now in production in our manufacturing facility. So our shelves are stocked with this product, and we're able to offer that today. And we do have some cool marketing signage as well, if that's something that would be of interest for you folks. Shay has included an example here, and that's always something we can support on. But we certainly want you to trial this product. So if you haven't tried it for yourself, please do, as I mentioned, reach out to your sales rep or reach out to me directly. My email is just MACK period EWING. I'll post it in the chat right now at transchem.com. And I can also direct you to the right person to support that. Great. And Adam in the chat had a question. Hey, Adam, hope you're doing well. He said, "Are we able to share these slides or have a version we can share?" Absolutely, we'll share these slides right after. Shay, if you wouldn't mind doing that. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. Always one step ahead of me, Shay. But before we let y'all get back with your day here, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening for you, we really appreciate you joining. Do you have any questions for us or any comments, anything that we didn't cover or anything that we could cover again? And just while I let anyone, if you do have any thoughts, type those out. Dave, is there anything you think we missed today or anything that we should highlight?
Oh, I think we've covered it. This product is um, it's pretty interesting. We've seen it. We've been testing it for a long time in a lot of different kind of environments. Some we saw some really dramatic improvements, and some we didn't see, crazy improvements. But certainly we didn't see any detractors. Um, but again, it's something that if you've got a situation where you've got equipment that can house it, um, it's certainly where to go. The container price is I think 5 gallons, I think is that list is sitting around $178 US. So I think, for a cost per car, when you're looking at a 2 mil, 3 mil application, it's quite negligible. And it does have the opportunity to really make some dramatic improvements there. Um, and I see Liz, is it worth monitoring and Trivia? Sure. I mean, it's not in a 2.5 right now, Liz. It's only coming out in a 5 gallon right now until we see that we can get some real good traction with the product. If we do, and we see that there can be a market viability to add the other SKU, we'll put it into 2.5. But because of its low usage, yeah, I mean, that would be certainly worthwhile keeping an eye on in TrueView. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you are dumping product. You don't want to be putting 10 or 11 or 15 mils on the car. It's just a waste of product. There's no point in doing that. It's an excessiveness that you don't really need. It's not going to increase the benefit or the working of the product. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, it is worth it.
Yeah, that's actually, Dave, you brought up a good point there. Thanks, Liz, for your question, because that's helpful. This is available only in 5 gallon format right now. But yeah, if you're utilizing our recommended usage here of kind of up to 5 mils, you shouldn't need more than a 5 gallon. But if we do see more adoption of this, certainly we'll add it as a 2.5 in that TrueView format. For us, just to kind of elaborate further on that, like, why don't we just add it as a 2.5 right away? It increases the complexity of the production process and production scheduling. And so our focus is always, let's get the product to market, let's learn from it, and then let's adapt as needed. And typically moving products into a 2.5 gallon format is a way for us to do that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you folks again for joining us today. Really appreciate it. It's nice to see lots of familiar names there. And as always, reach out to us if you have questions, comments, feedback. We always want to hear from you. But thanks again. Have an awesome rest of your day, and we'll talk to y'all soon.